yesterday and you noticed that a couple of you still have some questions on that worksheet we did yesterday. So what we want to do is really make sure you know how to do this and do this well. So the first thing you need to do is identify in that equation the beginning and the end. And you need to find out what the distance is between the beginning and the end. So you're going to find the distance. And in this case, that would be 11 minus 1. So it's always the end minus the beginning. So 11 minus 1 is 10. And then we told you you need to find half the distance. So half the distance is half of 10, which is 5. So what you're going to do is move 5 points in from the left and 5 points in from the right. So that makes the 6 my midpoint. So in your absolute values, we always have our absolute values set up as x minus that midpoint number equal to half the distance. So every one of you on your paper should have an equation that looks like an absolute value equal to half the distance, and inside the absolute value is x minus whatever your midpoint is. So in this case, it would be absolute value x minus 6 equals 5. Does that help everybody? Okay, so what's the distance in number 10? It's the last number, so -2, minus the first number, so -6. So Zoe, what's the distance? Perfect. What's half of 4? Dominique? Yep. So then your midpoint means you count 2 from either side. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So that makes my midpoint at -4. So it's the absolute value of x minus a -4 equals half the distance, which is 2. And we know that minus a minus becomes a positive. Okay, number 11. So we have our beginning and our end. So distance is 1 minus -7. So that's like 1 plus 7. Go ahead, Zoe. Awesome. And half of that, Zoe. Good. So that means my absolute value is equal to 4. Go ahead, Sierra. Okay, so she counted either 1, 2, 3, 4 up or 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Either way, she gets her midpoint at -3. And awesome, it's minus the minus. Do we feel better? Okay, so number 12. Madison, what's my distance? Perfect. Okay, Luke, what's half of the distance? That's what your absolute value is equal to. So if the distance is 8, what's half of the distance? Perfect. Okay, so my midpoint, so tell me what's the midpoint of those then? Sierra? Perfect. Anybody know my absolute value equation? Dominique? Okay, not 8. Because it's, yeah. Now the word problem is set up a little bit differently. So it says a thermometer is guaranteed to give a temperature no more than 1.2 degrees from the actual. If the thermometer reads 28, write and solve an equation to find the max and min. So that 28, that's my midpoint. That 28 is my midpoint. And that 1.2 is my half D. Because that's the distance it goes from the midpoint up and the distance it goes from the midpoint down. So your equation is x minus 28 equals 1.2. But it asks you to find that max and min temperature. So you have to then take your equation and do what we've been doing, which is to split it. So you have x minus 28 equals 1.2. And x minus 28 equals negative 1.2. And how would I solve for x, Zoe? Yeah, I'm going to add 28 in both of those equations to both sides. So over here, I get x equals 29.2 because I added 1.2. And on the other side, you have to subtract 1.2. So 28 minus 1.2 is 26.8. So what that means is that the max temperature is 29.2 and the min temperature is 26.8. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you guys 10 minutes to start working on that 2-5 handout that we just gave you that says Study Guide Day 1. Now, what you need to do is you need to remember, because now you're not writing the equations on the front of that handout, you're solving them again. So when you solve, you have to make sure you split it into the positive and the negative. So you should be getting 2 answers for every problem on that front page. Okay? We'll come around and help you.